Beast Wars Transformers Season 1 Finale Other Voices Part 1 and 2. So obviously, I have decided to just do Part 1 and Part 2 together in one review. And there's a little insight into the summer ritual of Invisiblekatana. But basically, it's go to sleep at around 4 and wake up around noon and then get in the shower. And then I watch something as I wait to dry off. And I watched the first part yesterday. And I was like, alright, I'll review it at some point, and then I'll watch part 2. And I didn't review it yesterday because I was doing some other stuff, and then I got out of the shower and I was waiting, and I was like, you know what? It's the season finale, like, even more so than, you know, the trigger part 1 and part 2. This is the finale, like, it should be done as a whole. And maybe it's because I'm just used to it, you know, today, where it's like, normally everything is an hour long, so I was kind of looking at it in that perspective as well, like, you know, it's just an hour, it's not, you know, commercials and everything, it wouldn't even be a full hour, it's probably like 40 something minutes. And I was like, it's also the season finale, it deserves to be just put together into one long review. Plus my reviews for this series have been really short, except for like a couple of episodes, so I decided to put them all together and just review it as one whole chunk as the season finale. And it was really cool. Everyone played a part in some regard, except for Cheetor, really. Like, he showed up, and Megatron showed up. They had, like, one scene, and then really, honestly, they really had nothing in the second episode. They showed up, and it's like, oh, because in the, yeah, and I'll just go in order, and then I'll get back to it. But basically, it starts off, we have the episode before the season, the two-part finale, and it's like the aliens are coming back to Earth. Like, they're coming to Earth, and they aren't exactly happy. We've been screwing up all their monuments and blowing up stuff, and it's like they're a little upset right now. So they come back to Earth. Well, it's supposed to be Earth. I'm kind of wondering now if they end up moving to a different planet. I'm still not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm almost sure they're on Earth from what I remember from the rest of the series. So they're on Earth, or they're on the planet, we'll say, and you know, everything starts to get real weird. You know, I mentioned before that Megatron was like, alright, I'll let Tarantulas kind of do his own thing. I'll send Black Arachnia off to find him, knowing that she's going to end up just teaming up with him because they're both, like, the sneaky spiders. So I'll let that play out behind the scenes, and I'll try to figure out what's going on with this golden disc and, you know, really everything that's going to happen. So part 1 comes along, and it's just like pure chaos. Everybody's starting to freak out. It's like this giant, like this giant sort of pod kind of shows up at this random location. So Optimus, Rat Trap, Air Razor, the three of them go there. Rat Trap and Air Razor get caught like in this explosion a little bit, and Air Razor actually gets trapped on the inside, and Rat Trap is stuck on the outside. Optimus meets up with them, and that's how they're, you know, all three of them end up there. And so they can't find a way in because Rat Trap is trying everything that he can. He uses like his lasers and all this stuff, and it doesn't work. And then Megatron shows up. They're still doing this little truce deal, by the way. So Megatron shows up, and he's like, well, of course the laser won't work. It's made of Energon. You know, everything they've done is built on Energon, so we have to do something organic based. So Scorponok shoots like or he like stings the actual wall like with a poison sting, and it opens up a hole. So Optimus goes in, and Rat Trap waits outside for him. Optimus goes in, he basically saves Air Razor, and he gets her out, and so then he's in there. He basically takes her place. And so this ship, when Air Razor's in it, it's just like destroying her. I guess they can't really call it a ship, it doesn't fly, it's this pod thing. And it's just electrocuting her like crazy. And we find out when it gets to Optimus that they're kind of like downloading everything from her system, because you hear all these jumbles and stuff, and then you hear Cybertron, and it's like, are these Cybertronians from, you know, centuries ago? You know, what in the world is going on? And it doesn't turn out to be that case, at least, you know, based on the way they gave like zero explanation as to who these creatures are. It's just some random aliens. But Air Razor gets out of there, Optimus gets in, and they kind of download his system, and they're kind of like, oh, this is the same one that we scanned before, because Optimus was the one that got kind of sucked into that pod earlier on in the season. So it's like, oh, this is the one that we scanned previously. So they talk with him, and he's like trying to figure out everything that's going on. And he's like, you know, who are you guys? And then like this giant yellow swirling portal forms over his head, and then it like a big flash happens, and this is all on Optimus's face, and then he looks up and he gasps, and they show in the reflection of his eye that it's Unicron, and then they pan out, and that's what I use for, of course, the thumbnail. It's just this little tiny Optimus and this giant head of Unicron, and I was super amped because I was like, I don't remember any of this. And I was like, holy crap, it's Unicron. And then they're like, we have no physical form that you'd understand. We just basically use this from your memory. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. But it's still super cool. We got to see a giant, Unicron head for a split second. And of course, that is more of a thing for G1 fans than it would be for, newer fans, like me. When I was originally watching the series, I was like, I don't know who Unicron is. Though it still would have been cool if I remember it because they do mention Unicron. So it's not like it would have meant nothing. It still would have been there, but you'd have to remember it from like that single reference from the Starscream episode. Like, oh, Unicron. Like, as a kid, I definitely wouldn't have remembered that. And even today, I'm a little stupid. I don't remember like single characters that show up once. So even watching it now, if it hadn't been so close together, or the fact that I'm such a huge fan of Transformers, I wouldn't have remembered Unicron. Like, that name wouldn't have meant anything because they don't show the face. So I would have been like, definitely never seen this character. I would have had to have remembered it by name. But they do the face of Unicron, and Optimus tries to tell them, like, okay, well, if you made this image because you kind of scanned my system, then we mean no harm. Like, we don't want to destroy the planet. That was never our intention or anything like that. And they're kind of just like, too bad, you guys effed up already. And their whole plan is like, yeah, too late. So we're going to begin to just, wipe out the entire effing planet, kill you guys, kill every innocent creature, wipe out the whole effing planet. We don't care. It's, they kind of acted like it was their planet because they put Energon on it. And that was pretty much all there was to it. It was like, meh, whatever, we're going to just kill you all. So Optimus pretty much gets, let free. And this ship shoots a giant laser up into the sky. And it hits what is seemingly the first moon of this planet, and all of that erases. It's basically like a hologram, and it just erases, and it's like a Death Star, which is from Star Wars. It's like a Death Star over the planet. It's like, holy crap, that literally is no moon. So that was pretty cool. That was a nice little reveal, because I don't remember any of this stuff happening. I just remember like bits and pieces, like when the image started to move backwards, I was like, oh, I remember like this really random specific image, and this might be because of a music video that used Beast Wars. The music had nothing to do with Beast Wars, but it just used Beast Wars, so that might be why I remember it. But it was just like this little image of like the holographic thing kind of wiping away, and then you see all these little, like, they almost look like hooks on this spaceship, or this giant cannon, thing. And I was like, oh, I kind of remember like that one image, and maybe it's because it's in the season 2 opening. I don't know yet. I decided not to go into season 2 until this, because of course it ends on a big cliffhanger. But it wipes away this image, and it's just this giant space station. We have Rhinox and Dinobot. They get attacked by Black Arachnia and Tarantulas. So both of them actually end up getting knocked out, and Tarantulas is doing his plan. I mentioned like they kind of hint at it a little bit, like, oh, he has a warp drive, or I forgot exactly what they call it, but he has a drive, and so he takes it to the Maximal base, and he and Black Arachnia do end up teaming up. They take out Rhinox and Dinobot, and they use one of the stasis pods that are actually in the Maximal base to try to make a ship to escape. And because Megatron, of course, knew what was going to happen, that was like his whole thing. It was like, alright, we'll see how all this plays out, and I'll let that happen behind the scenes. And he still sends, of course he has to send somebody, and he sends Inferno to go behind them. So they go in, they're working on this machine, and this is kind of when it gets into the second part of, the finale. So they're working on the stasis pod and everything, and of course things start to get a little, crazy between Black Arachnia and Tarantulas. And it was really simple, because it started off where Tarantulas is working on the thing, and Black Arachnia is like, this doesn't look big enough for the both of us, but it could be romantic or whatever. She's kind of messing with him, and he's like, basically shoving her off, like, I got stuff to do. Like, this planet's about to effing blow up. I don't care about your stupid jokes or anything. And so he's working on the ship, and right after that, I thought it was really fast, but Black Arachnia was like, alright, basically she was just like, alright, betrayal time, and she's about to shoot him in the back, but a blast lands next to her, and she looks to her left, and it's Inferno, and he like knocks her out, and then he has a huge fight with Tarantulas. He knocks him out, which actually pisses off Megatron, because Megatron is scanning the ship, and he's like, okay, two Maximals, which are Rhinox and Dinobots, like those signals came in as non-responsive, so they were knocked out. He's like, okay, that's good. And Tarantulas and Black Arachne are working on the ship, and Inferno is getting closer to them. Everything is going as I want it to. And then when he scanned it again, and Inferno took out Tarantulas, he's like, crap, he's the only one that could build a ship that could possibly help anyone, you know, get to space and escape. So he was a little pissed off about that. And then all the Maximals pretty much team up together. They end up going back to base. And that's when Cheetor and Tigatron come in, because they weren't in the first part, like, whatsoever. They didn't even show up, because that was one of the things I was curious about in the first part, because when Rhinox and Dinobot get taken out, I thought for sure Cheetor was going to show up and, you know, there would at least be a fight, but I was like, huh, that's weird. Cheetor is always in base, so he shows up in part 2 with Tigatron, and Optimus is like, hey, you know, basically we're all going back to base, you know, let's get there. So they make it there, and this is where Cheetor and Tigatron disappear, because it's like, oh, you guys get Rhinox and Dinobot down, and that's what happens. They get them down, and I think Cheetor is in like one more scene. I think Tigatron actually doesn't show up at all for the rest of the episode, and if he does not have a single line. So I don't think he's in there whatsoever, but they do have some more stuff with Cheetor, but that was kind of it. It was like, hey, you guys do this, and we'll go search around the base, because obviously the arachnids are here. So Rat Trap and Air Razor search around the base, and then they contact Optimus, and he goes and he finds Black Arachnia, who is actually completing the stasis pod herself, because she uses, basically it's like a visor, and that's what Tarantulas, I don't know why I was mixing up the names for a second, but that's what Tarantulas was using. So she's like, well, sorry, but I gotta basically go through your databanks and figure out how to do this stuff myself. So she goes through, and then there's like this crazy sequence where she's in his mind but inside of his lab at the same time, and she starts to hear him, he starts laughing behind her, and so she's freaking out and looking around, and then everything like wipes away, and it's just like a giant Tarantulas standing around. He's in like his robot form, he's not in the spider form, or tarantula form, I guess. So that happens, and then they pan out to a scene of her. She's wearing the visors, and she's just freaking out and screaming, and then it cuts away, and then, so once they find her and everything, she seems like, you know, she's fine. So basically what happens is Optimus says, we have to make this ship get to this giant weapon in space. We can launch it up there. Someone has to guide it, pretty much. So we have to launch it up to space, and then someone would have to eject from the ship, let it hit the machine in space, which is now changed from this giant Death Star-like machine into basically, this is another nerdy reference, but it turns into the Halo from the Halo video game. So it's like a giant ring, and it has like a golden circle in the middle that actually like absorbs the energy and shoots the laser down. And it shoots a beam down because it turns out that in order to destroy the planet, they're basically heating up the surface. So they shoot out basically a big solar beam to light up all of the energon on the planet. And it lights some stuff up. And I don't think I mentioned this before, but every time there's fire or an explosion, I may have mentioned this during Inferno's thing, all the fire is like real fire effects. Like when you watch something on YouTube and they use like really cheap fire effects, it's like that in this. So it's really weird to see all this cool 3D stuff, and then like it doesn't look bad, but it's like you can tell it's not like CG fire, which they probably didn't even have at the time, but it's like actual stock footage of fire like superimposed onto them. And I'm like, it looks so weird, because that's like a real life explosion that they recorded, or you know, stock footage, and they just green screen it out and put it over the Transformers. So it looks so weird when I see that, but a bunch of real life fire going off and stuff. And Optimus is the one, of course, it's Optimus, so he, not only does he have a good reason as the leader, but he also mentions a flyer would be the only one to really have a chance to get out of there in time, you know, with this explosion. They could actually like boost away from the explosion themselves and not just fall back down and kind of see what happens. So he ends up going on the ship. Megatron's super pissed off, like, you know, at first he was real mad because once the laser beam came down, Optimus told the ship to, you know, boost shields to max, so Megatron couldn't scan the ship anymore. And then as things continue on and the giant laser beam kind of goes away for a second, he realizes Optimus is getting in the ship, and he's like, this is even better than what I wanted, because his whole idea was let Tarantulas create this ship and let, you know, kind of let everything play out, because of course someone's going to get in that ship and destroy this machine, and Optimus is the one to do it. And he was super happy about it, and Optimus is like, alright, I'm going to eject from the ship, let this thing fly up and try to survive. And as he does it, he's like, you know, prepare for ejection and everything, and the ship says that's not possible. It's like magna sealed or whatever. And he's like, that's not possible, like it shouldn't be possible that that happens. And then Megatron comes up on the screen, and he's like, oh, but it is possible. It's like, it's really crazy that we'd have the same idea to, you know, have this ship created and have it go up to the giant laser beam and be destroyed. Fortunately for me, I'm stuck here, you know, I'm stuck down on the planet, and you will go out with the ship. So that was his plan the whole time, was to let Tarantulas build this thing, because he knew that would be the only way for it to work, would be to go to the Maximal base. He'd have to get another stasis pod to escape. Let him go there, let things kind of unfold as they would. Hopefully he finishes it just in enough time for the Maximals to take it, and for at least one of them, you know, I was going to say optimally, but preferably Optimus. And that's kind of how everything plays out. And so they have this really quick moment where Megatron and Optimus are talking. It goes back to the room where everyone's waiting to see what happens, and we see Black Arachnia when everyone's freaking out, like, why doesn't he eject now? Black Arachnia's eyes turn green because Tarantulas actually took over her body, and he's like, you know, it's too late now, and he sealed the ship pretending to be Black Arachnia. So the way that this season ends, honestly, is Optimus going up into space and hitting, he does actually, it doesn't end like, is he gonna hit it or not? Like, he actually hits this thing, he does stop it, and there's a big explosion, and he's blown to pieces. Like, they don't really focus on it, but there's like a really fast scene, because his chest plate is, it almost looks like a T, the letter T, and it has like a little red piece in the middle, and it's really fast, but it flies right towards the screen. So he's like blown to pieces, and they have a quick shot of like his face, like really fast, goes past the screen. So he's been like blown to pieces. The machine is blown up. Everyone is technically saved on the planet, and it just ends. It says like the end with a question mark, and that's how this first season ends. And it was really cool. It was definitely fun. It was exciting to watch how everything was going to play out. I was glad that it did actually come full circle, because I mentioned that before. I think it was with the second time they found an alien device. I was like, I really hope this does actually come into play. And, excuse me, it ends up being exactly how they end, you know, the official first season. So it was a great way to end the season. I'm very excited to get into season 2. There's some changes coming for sure. There are visual changes for, I think every character in the series has a visual change. I don't know if that's exactly at the beginning of the second season. I don't believe it is, but everyone gets a change. I know that there's supposed to be some more Transformers coming into the series as well. So I don't know if there's going to be a time jump, or if it's going to pick up right after, or what's going to happen with them either rebuilding Optimus or him healing or something like that. And I really don't know if this is the end of the whole alien thing just because their device got destroyed. They might flat out come to the planet themselves. I really don't know. So I am looking forward to seeing, you know, exactly what's going to be going down in season 2. Really fun season finale. Really fun first season. Like, the first season, I think, is half the series, because the second, because basically the thing, I wish I had it. Oh, I do have it. Here it is. So the thing only comes in 2 sets. So it's basically all of season 1, and then I'm trying to find a way not to show the different changes. So this is season 2. So this is season both 2 and 3 right here. I didn't want to show the pictures because it'll show exactly what they look like, which I kind of wish I couldn't see them either, but too late. That's pretty sweet though for tarantulas. Anyway. But it was cool. It's a really fun season finale. I also did watch the extra features in this one. I wanted to do that before I did the review, even though this is, once again, super close to the end here. But they have a thing like creating a new breed of Transformer, and it's them. It was about 20 minutes actually. It was about a full episode, and it was really them talking about what the process was for making Beast Wars, and it was pretty cool. It was really simple. They just talked about, you know, this is where things were when we made Transformers, and then things kind of started to kind of wane because Transformers, you know, G1 was just not as popular as it used to be. So it was like, we need to make something brand new for the next generation, but is also Transformers. And so they made the decision to go from machines to animals, and I thought it was really cool. You know, they decided we'll do, you know, Maximals and Predacons and stuff. So the Maximals are all going to be mammal based and stuff like that, and all the Predacons are going to be insects and lizards and things like that. So it was actually a really cool, simple little video. They just talked about it, mentioned like some of their favorite characters, things like that. They talk about Scorponok, which I thought was really funny. Apparently they've been using that name since the show came out, and even to this day, this was the 15th anniversary, so that I believe was, I think it said it was in 2011. So at least up until 2011, if not truly till now, people don't get Scorponok right. They either say Scorponox or what was Scorponics was the other thing the guy said, which I thought was hilarious that people thought it was Scorponic. I just thought that was really funny, but people just don't say Scorponok right, so I just thought that was really funny. But it was a cool little extra. I also watched the art gallery, which is really good. I didn't notice that they kind of have it a little in the menus and stuff, some of the character models. But man, the art on that is like some Alex Ross looking stuff. It looks like it's painted type of stuff. I was like, that looks really cool. And they showed some of the early 3D models and the early concepts and stuff. Like Dinobot went through a couple of different changes, which I thought were cool, as well as Rhinox. But really fun season finale. Really cool extras. I'm not sure if the second, I would assume seasons 2 and 3 also have like a bonus thing on the final disc or whatever, but excited to get into it. Of course, if you guys have any comments about this episode or anything Transformers in general, please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.